us in. Hello, everybody on Twitch. We're going to be jumping on Facebook in just a second. Thank you, Champ, for joining in on chat, and welcome on in here. So on Twitch, we'll give a little bit of the interplays before we go live on Facebook, since now we're tonight doing it with a three-man crew. Carol's taking the night off, and I'll bring in DC's People Champ and Dujunnea in just a second, but let me just go live on Facebook. Click the button. All right, I think we are live on Facebook. Welcome to Sports on the Hill podcast, episode 282. We're calling it Misery Monday for the Commanders versus the Lions. A frustrating loss that we will get into. We'll talk a little bit of Nationals and a couple other topics as well. Just want to make sure, yeah, we are live on Facebook. We are also live on Twitch as well. And throughout the night, I'll be sharing to a couple of extra groups. We'll get people's comments in live if they have any questions for the team. Let's bring in the team right now. We'll start off with DC's People Champ. How are you doing today, Champ?
Live and direct from the People Studios in Alexandria, Virginia. And just like this cigar is falling apart on me now, the Commanders' defense fell apart yesterday, and we will talk about it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's that was a rough game. It's hard to start as bad as they did, and it just kept on unraveling for them. And then the moments I thought they were going to pull it back, and then got worse, and then it got pretty bad, and then they finally played a game of it. But at that point, it was a little bit too late. But we'll get into all of that. But the next guest we're going to bring in is Dejanae Bland. How you doing tonight, Dejanae?
Doing great, man. Doing great. Unfortunately, it's not a win, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, we could kind of see it coming, right? I mean, that we were not picked to win this game. I did a pick'em show on Thursday to celebrate 400 followers here on Twitch, which I appreciated a lot of people for tuning in on, and we had a really fun, almost 5-hour show between my show and Davey's eating a sandwich. And it was a lot of fun. We tried to pick all the games. We did not do very well this week. It was a tough week in the NFL for pick'em. I think anybody did well if they got close to 500. But I did not pick us this week, right? And so I guess I got that one right. But at the same time, you could kind of see this happening. Detroit has now put 3 games in a row up with 35 points or more, I believe, which is the first time they've done that, and I want to say over 50 years. So
yeah, it's been a long time.
So they're not a bad team, right?
No.
And they should not be overlooked. And there's a reason they were favored in this game. A lot of people kind of scoffed at that a couple of days before, and they're like, oh, Washington's coming off a good victory over the Jags, which, by the way, they vindicated a little bit what we said last week, where we said the Jags are a pretty good team. Everyone's like, oh, no, you beat a really bad team, and that's not indicative of how you're going to play the next week. I think the Lions are better than us, but I think we're better than Jacksonville, and I think Jacksonville is a really good team. So I mean, those all can still be true. But that was interesting to see their domination in that series. But we can get into some of the other games as well. But Dejanae, I want you to start just breaking down your overall thoughts on this game from yesterday, and I'm going to share the podcast to a couple of different groups to try to get some comments in there, and then we'll get Champ's thoughts, initial thoughts. You give your opening takeaways and things like that, and then we can break down more by position group or however we want to break it down after that.
Watching the first half of the game, when you're looking at what was transpiring, so it was very clear the offensive line was struggling, right? They were struggling to block, and especially in pass rush. I thought they would do some things to get Antonio Gibson out of the space. They did not do that. You get backed up. Against your end zone, and you decide to do a 5-step drop. That's where I'm looking at Scott Turner and saying your offensive line hasn't done a good job up to this point. You got to do something to get the ball out quickly. Play it smart, play it safe. Don't put Carson Wentz in a position where he's going to possibly get sacked or lose the football for a safety. And it happened. I don't like the fact if you're going to play bad for a quarter, fine. I know some are making excuses of, well, they made adjustments in the second half. Well, that's not soon enough. You were clearly getting beat to the point of attack, and it looked like you really weren't prepared for what was about to transpire. Like you figured you were going to run the same thing you ran last week, as if Detroit doesn't watch any film. That can't happen. And he needed to make adjustments a lot sooner. I know a lot of people are trying to blame Carson Wentz, and I think you guys are just reaching, man, reaching really bad. You guys haven't seen 8 touchdowns in eons. You should be thankful. This is on being prepared, and we've seen this a time or two before. And I'm only focusing on the first half. We've seen this a time or two before. And if that adjustment gets made a little bit early, maybe it's a game a little bit early as well. Now, we can sit here and talk about the defense allowing 7 of 15 on third down. They allowed at least 1 of 2 fourth down conversions, 21 first downs. I mean, how many explosive plays? But you likely are in this game a little bit closer and a little bit sooner if you make that adjustment early. But it just seemed like, in typical Scott Turner fashion, beat your head against the wall to do the same things over and over and over again that were not working and that was not helping your offensive line, as if something was going to change.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think I don't understand why we didn't see some slants and misdirections earlier in the
3-step
game.
drops,
It
not
was
5.
just, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. It wasn't working. The run game wasn't working. They had to try more things to the outside. They had to try some slants. They need to try some bubble screens, mix it up a little bit. Maybe, RPO action. I don't know. The run game wasn't working, and so you couldn't play action off of it.
Right.
So they have to throw that all out and pretty much start with something else in the second quarter. And what's crazy is they had this great goal line stand where they could have really cut it down, and instead they give up that safety and it ultimately unravels for them. But if they're able to get some running yardage, get out of the end zone a little bit, I don't know. I think that was a pivotal moment, because if they can march down that field and even get a field goal or something to feel good about themselves, and they didn't allow any points on the other way, instead the safety, then you kick it off, then they've got the short field and it avalanches, right? So, it's important to get the run game going, and it wasn't working in the conventional sense at first, but then you got to be creative with it and get it going in some way possible, because they were just pass rushing us at a point, and we just couldn't make the adjustments until we did later on, when we added some of the slants and some of the things that we were talking about, and we made a game of it. But then the defense didn't step up when they needed to, unfortunately. But Champ, I want to get some of your thoughts on the first half, and then we'll get in that second half.
Right. One of Dujunea's colleagues at Sports Journey, Lake Lewis, who's a fantastic guy. I got to meet him a few times because he's local to the area. Put a very, very on point post on Instagram earlier today, and it read as this. When Ron Rivera was hired, he said that his defense would play fast downhill and wouldn't allow offenses to dictate them. Well, Jack Del Rio's defense has been dictated to every week for the past 2 seasons. It's too much talent on D for these results. If that ain't the truest statement I ever read online in my life, I mean, it's nothing but facts. You have all the talent in the world on that side of the ball with Jonathan Allen. You'll get Young back in a couple of games. You have all this talent in the world, but yet we're getting the results that we're getting. And I spoke highly of the defense last week. I said, hey, they were able to get off the field. They were able to, give the offense the chance to go out there and do what they needed to do. They had high praise from me last week. This week, they went completely backwards. They went absolutely backwards. The secondary was absolutely lost. There were too many times where receivers got more wide open than in a peewee football game. I mean, I probably could have made some 30, 40-yard catch and runs in that defensive setup. And I'm 235 pounds and slow. And I probably would have gotten 20, 30, 40-yard bursts out of that. It's really sad as a fan to have 1 week see the defense do one thing and then the next week go the opposite direction and see the results that we get. And the defensive effort definitely put a lot of pressure on the offense to do what they needed to do. And as DJ so eloquently put it earlier, the offensive line was the problem on that side, because how can Carson Wentz step back and do anything if he's got blue jerseys all in his face and in his grill within like 2 seconds? You can't really do nothing. So this was just not a very good game. Detroit shows that they are a very good team. I got to walk back my statement about Jared Goff. I thought he was going to go out there and stink the bed. He actually played very well. And as we talked about in our group chat earlier, Dujunnea said it best. It's not on Wentz. Carson Wentz went out there and threw for over 300 yards again and spread the ball around. But it's just when your defense is not doing what they're supposed to do, how's the offense going to do anything?
Yeah. I want to apologize to the Twitch feed. There was a background. I was picking up some computer audio and there was an ad going on and there was another thing playing. So thank you, Andy, for letting us know. I appreciate it.
I'll make a quick correction. That was Washington was 7 of 15. The Lions were 4 of 13 on third down, but it doesn't matter when you don't have to get the third down because of the big plays that they were receiving on first and second down.
Yeah, it's true. But thank you, Andy, for letting us know. Luckily, we actually do the audio recording on Zoom, so I don't think it actually picked that up for the audio podcast. But I appreciate Andy for letting me know, and we got it fixed for later. And people that don't know, Andy Primordial Sounds, who's in chat right now, will be joining us for the second hour. We're going to be doing some art together, doing some emote design. So people are on the Facebook live feed that's just going to be for the first hour, and they want to click into that. The link is in the description, and they can watch me do some art on the Twitch feed, which has actually been pretty popular lately. So I look forward to expanding and doing other things on Twitch other than just sports talk, which is kind of fun to do. Anyway, back to what it is, but thank you, Andy, for letting us know. That's why we have people in chat. Moderators are helpful for that. And I want to give a quick little scoring update before we get back into it. We actually have 2 Monday Night Football games going on right now. In the third quarter, 10:18 left. This game is happening in Buffalo. The score was, they just put it away. It was 24, was it 7?
Yes, 24-7.
Thank you. Yeah, there it is, 24-7. They took away the ticker right as I was going to it. I was like, that's super helpful. Anyway, and the other game it's 14-0 the Eagles, but Minnesota is right on the goal line round, 1st and goal and a touchdown. So Minnesota has now made it a little bit closer in that one.
Was that a passing touchdown?
It was a passing touchdown.
Thank you, Kirk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kirk.
Come on, Dalvin should have got that. I have him on my fantasy team. Dang it.
Yeah. Irv Smith Jr. with the 2-yard touchdown reception. It was a very simple play fake and then a bootleg out to the right, and there was no one within 5 yards of him. A walk-in 2-yard touchdown for them. Vikings scoring plays 75 yards in 5 minutes and 13 seconds. So ESPN on ABC is happening there. So I've never seen that. Oh, that extra point almost didn't go in. So it's weird to have 2 broadcasts by the same network at the same time. They're doing live look-ins in each of them. It's just really rare in the NFL. Usually it's competing networks. So anyway, we got both those games live on in the man cave. If anybody wanted to see what that looked like, you can see I got OBS up. We got the upper one's got one game and the other one's got the other game. So making sure we got all of it. Thank you, Andy. It's good to see you as well. I look forward to our art stream in a little bit. All right, let's get back into the second half, where I thought that they actually played really well, and if they could have just gotten off the field on a couple of plays, they'd set themselves up for success. I think it was too big of a hole to ask them to climb out of that, but if they had played that way the whole game, we probably would have won the game. Dejanae, what are your some thoughts on the second half?
It really is a tale of 2 halves, right? This offense really got going. I think this is where Washington fans need to be happy about. In years past, you fold up the tent, put the chairs in the back of the car and head on out of here. because it was over. For them to fight back in this game after being down 22-0, they had all of like 20 yards or so coming into the late of the first half on offense. Maybe had like one first down or so. To come back out in the second half and do what they were able to do was pretty impressive. What I like to see more is the defense to play. You know, the biggest problem is with the defense is the front four is trying to get pressure, but your secondary is getting shook worse than a spades table at a black family reunion. Mm-hmm. It's ridiculous. I mean, and they look confused back there, right? And we've seen this over the years. It's always talking about miscommunications. I don't, Jackson and all these guys they have back there don't play like this if there's no clear communication. And I don't know if others or fans realize that they're playing a 4-2-5 defense. You realize that? I'm sure some of you are like, why are there only, looks like there's only 2 linebackers in the middle there. Well, it is. It's only 2 linebackers. And we talked about this last week, especially in the running game, that gashed them a lot last week and this week. It's the same things. When you have those 2 linebackers back there, essentially you don't have a middle linebacker. So it's a big, keen responsibility for those 2 linebackers to maintain their gap responsibility and allow the defensive front to do what they need to do. When you over pursue, you get caught up into that defensive line traffic. So now there's no one in the middle to help anything out. So the safeties are having to come up and make tackles. And by that time, we all know it's 6 yards down the field plus. And if they miss, then you get those big runs that Swift had in the game. I mean, you know, they had everybody and their mama running. I mean, St. Brown had 68, Swift had 56. They had longs of 58, 50. Williams had a long of 12. He ran for 53 yards as well. Too much. And I think it's time that we start talking about the fact that Jack Del Rio is not doing his job. And as far as I'm concerned, he's got one more week, or he can find himself at his home in Destin and he can chill on the beach and do whatever he wants. This is not working. And we're not seeing any adjustments. There's no aggressiveness to this defense. But there's an offense. You'd be okay
with firing him mid-season? I feel like not very many.
You have to do something. You know, you have a coach that is a defensive coach, right? There's no need to worry about a guy who's not getting the job done. They've allowed almost 58 points in 2 games. We haven't even talked about the amount of yards 425 this week. 425. I don't even remember what it was last week, but I can tell you right now, it's upwards of almost 500 to 600 yards in 2 weeks. Unacceptable for a team that has all this talent. And you're at the helm of calling all of this. So at some point, while we're firing defensive line coaches, at some point, he's got to own this garbage he's been putting on the field for now a 3rd season. And you think that Ron or Riverboat should be okay with that when his offense is putting up the amount of points they're putting up to win ball games? If you just get a few stops, you win the game, right? Just a few. He ain't asking for a whole lot. Bend but don't break. I mean, they did hold him to 5 in the first half while the offense was kind of comatose and out to lunch.
Yeah, it's just so hard because it's hard when you fire a head coach of a whole entire half of your football team.
But he's not doing anything. Yeah. He's not helping that half of the football team. I mean,
but do we literally
you could go out and do a better job.
But do you think there's somebody else within the system?
Absolutely.
And so you would do that versus bring somebody else in?
Absolutely. I believe that Ron Rivera is smart enough to do that. He can coach his defense.
Do you think the system is good enough that it's a coach's fault and they're going to keep the same system, just put a new coach into it? Or do you think that they need to switch the system up too?
I think it's an adjustment in the system. I really don't like this. The 4-2-5 works but you're asking this is the same conversation we had last year. You're asking your linebackers to do a lot, and you're asking a lot of your secondary. They're on combination routes. So if this happens, you get what I'm saying? So, for example, my mom asked me this today. She's like, what are the linebackers' assignments? Well, they could be many things depending on what the line is, but you're asking two linebackers to potentially have to cover tight ends or running backs out of the backfield and be posed to try to help if it is, for whatever reason, a pass setup, which is actually a run. You virtually have no middle linebacker in this 4-2-5 defense. And it's obvious that that's not helpful for these young cats that they have at linebacker. It doesn't play to their strengths. 4-3 works.
Look to because it's hard to know who's leading the defense. I feel like when you have a middle linebacker, you defer to, they're like the quarterback of your defense, and you sort of move off of them. You know, everyone has their position. They're calling stuff out a lot like a quarterback does. People who don't know defense might not even realize that. In fact, in a lot of levels, they even wear helmets that are getting, calls in, just in the same way that a quarterback would.
Right.
And they're aligning it. And in the NFL, do they have audio transmission to one player on defense? I know some leagues they do.
I thought they did. I don't think that's the case now, but I thought they were trying it out at one point.
Yeah, and I know some leagues do have it.
They do.
And also I know that in college that position is still the leadership. They don't get called into them, but they get a signal from their outside that also that they're running the show kind of thing, like a quarterback does. So
I mean, they're asking a lot of these linebackers, and don't get me wrong, it does if you play within the confines, and because there's a lot of broken lane and gap responsibilities by those two linebackers that cause a lot of these runs to break because they're getting caught up in the wash of the defensive lineman and trying to crash down.
Sorry, there's a huge play that just happened in this Buffalo game. So Buffalo just kicked it.
Did that just go off his helmet?
There you go. So yeah, it's he calls for a fair catch, and it was right off his shoulder, and clear recovery by the Bills. Ooh,
wow,
that's rough. Oh, I think it got lost in the lights. I really do. It's like one of those things that happen in baseball, but it can happen at night.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah, let me let my dog out real quickly. But Champ, give some of your thoughts on the second half adjustments and the things that you liked and overall.
Okay, so to expound on what DJ said earlier, this Washington defense gave up 58 points in 2 games and a total of 815 yards. Let those numbers sink into your head real quick while I talk about this. So this defensive setup, which is almost essentially like a nickel defense, because you have 5 DBs in there, it's not looking very good. As I said earlier on in my opening thoughts, it just seems like the DBs are just confused to their assignments. There's 5 of them out there and there's only 4 receivers. How is a receiver still getting wide open with 5 of you out there plus 2 linebackers? That's 7 on 4. How is someone getting open? That's what I want to know. I like the fact that they did kind of adjust a little bit, but I think it's been already said that it was a little too late. I think adjustments should have been made a lot sooner. They need to fix this system. I don't think that having only 2 linebackers out there and having them also responsible for coverage is helpful, especially if you're going up against a very good running team. And the first 2 weeks of the season, you have the running backs have gashed you so horribly. And offensively, because I know a lot of the focus on the defense, but offensively, it looks like they really kind of adjusted a little bit as well. And you finally got to see Samuels be used more. McLaurin got a few catches. Logan Thomas was able to make some plays and things like that. The touchdown to Samuels was really, really, just really well done. I mean, he managed to make a move and get past the line, the DB, and Wentz just tossed it in there just perfectly, right in between the two DBs that only Samuels can get it and still stride into the end zone. Even though he took a shot, he was already in the end zone. So that was a really good throw for Carson to make there. And I think just overall, it just wasn't a great effort on, the offense the first half. The second half was a much better effort, but defensively, they just weren't really in sync the entire game. Now, it wasn't just a tale of two halves where the first half they were struggling and the second half they got better. It was all four quarters, something was wrong. And I think I got to echo DJ's sentiment here. If Jack Del Rio can't get it together, especially against a division foe as Philly, I think he's got to go. He's got to go. I think he's got to go. So that's all I got to say about that. If he doesn't get it fixed and we lose to our divisional opponent and give up 20 or more points again, a change has to be made, and it has to be made now.
And this ain't an overreaction. We got 2 years of this stuff, man. 2 years. And it rests on you now, especially now that the offense is playing very well. Rivera can't be too happy about that. And if there's no adjustments made to put, again, I'm tired of coaches pigeonholing their personnel to do what they want to do. You have to play to the strength of your players, and he's not doing that. He hasn't been doing that in the past 2 years. So how long are you going to wait till you're out of the playoff hunt and below 500 again? And then Ron Rivera's got to take all of that. At some point, somebody's got to pay. They already paid for the defensive line supposedly not doing so well. Lack of agreement on strategy there. Gone. This guy hasn't done nothing for 2 years. And here you are coming into your third game with all these yards they've racked up in 2 games. You ain't really stopped anybody. And your defense looks confused.
And the offense is improving because there's all this talk that their offense wasn't giving them enough, and they were showing up.
They got more than enough.
Early on in the tenure between these, the defense was showing up, the offense was not, right? We'll agree to that. But now the offense is showing up, so we need the defense to also show up, and maybe it doesn't have to show up to the level it was before, but at least
half of it
in between. Halfway would have gotten us a win. It wasn't that. But we got a lot of people tuning in on Facebook. I really appreciate it. Eric was saying Rookie Davis trying to learn Mike on the fly last season isn't the best plan for a defensive organization. Brian Bingham said when they get Carl back, they can move Forrest to what Landon Collins was last year. That could help.
Yeah, I do believe they're missing Curl a lot back there. They are missing him. I will agree with that.
Yeah, and coaches have the nerve to single him out. And then also Eric was saying no reason to delay dumping Del Rio, can't get worse, and no positive trend of improvement. So there you go. So
by the way, to back up what you're saying about the offense has combined to have 786 yards of total offense in the first 2 games. How long has it been since we've seen that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think any quarterback in the history of the game had started quite as well as Wentz has for a team, right? First 2 starts, wasn't it one of the top performances ever, Dujunnea? I thought I saw that somewhere.
Yeah. Something about I also saw something about that's like 4 or 5, that's 7 touchdowns, and then no quarterback in Washington history has thrown for 7 touchdowns in a long time.
Well, I don't think any had ever. None
I don't think it's ever.
It never started a Washington career.
Yeah,
no one has ever. Yeah, like that. So
Wentz became the first person in the history of the NFL to debut with a new team with that performance of 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That was what was popped up when he came into the game for the first series yesterday. Was that he was the first person in the NFL to do it. Imagine the quarterbacks that have been in this league, and he's now on the record was the only one to debut with a new team and perform that way.
Yeah.
And I know some people were like, oh, he's overthrowing, made some bad plays in the first half. He did. And I think he would own some of those bad plays as well. Also, just don't think that the scheme that they had was working. And I think they needed to abandon it sooner, because when they did,
wasn't.
you know, the second they abandoned it for the second half, we saw improvement. And
Right.
you know, Carroll talked about this a lot, that you can't wait till halftime to make adjustments. You know, you got to make adjustments, let's say every 5 to 10 minutes in the game. You know, like it's something. Once upon a time, you could make halftime adjustments, and that was enough. You know, that in an NFL from 20 years ago, maybe that works, but it doesn't work. And today, they got iPads. They're seeing the schemes faster. They're analyzing stuff at a quicker rate. They have people in their ears, analytics people. They're saying this is what they're doing. It's a different game.
And your offensive line is crying, "Help me!"
Yeah.
They are getting whooped up front.
We just don't run.
The least you can do is change. Help them out.
I haven't seen a tight end screen, I don't think, yet. You know,
no, I haven't.
That's crazy with somebody with his skills and his strength and his ability.
I will say this, and I was saying this last week. I even said it on my show. I think this offense has the ability to feature someone new every week. It's a pick your poison type of thing if everyone's healthy. I mean, the way that Carson's spreading the ball around, if they're using Gibson in space like he's comfortable with to manufacture some of those runs, get McKissick in there, and then when you get Robinson back and you get that guy who will be your guy who is a true running back, and you can filter all that in. They don't have to go with the same thing you did last week, this week. They can go any way they want. You got the young kid and Jahan just playing his butt off. You got Terry, you got Samuel, who looks like a human joystick out there. I mean, there's just so many things they can do. And there was no reason to be pigeonholed in what they were doing in the first half and allowing it to get to 22-0 out of hand. Like, there was no reason for that.
8 different people caught a pass from Carson Wentz yesterday.
Yeah.
and I think something similar in week 1.
Yes, he was spreading it around.
Yeah, so that's great. I mean, and so these are all things trending in the right direction. Yeah, anybody that wants to say, oh, it's the same team that we've seen before, blah, 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 it's not. I think our defense does need to improve. I think that those can be true. But this offense is a team that none of us have seen in a while, and it's going to take them a couple of weeks to get going, right? I mean, we've seen tremendous success right off the bat, but at the same time, there's still room to grow, right? The chemistry can still build. There's, as long as they can stay healthy, this could really build into a really great offense, and the defense just needs to come along for the ride a little bit more. And it sucks because the offense was surging yesterday, and I could see the comeback. We got it within 1 touchdown, and the comeback was on. I still question going for 2 so early.
It shouldn't have happened,
bro.
It shouldn't have happened. I don't care what analytics you talk about. Like, at some point, you got to use the old brain here. You got to think a little bit. That was dumb. That was about as dumb as that stupid flea flicker in the first half when you could barely move the ball down the field as well. That was trash. I think that took the whole momentum they had built, and you just cut the sails up and throw them in the ocean.
Yeah, I agree. Chip, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, that 2-point conversion attempt that early, I get you're down a lot and you're trying to really close the gap, but that's a situation where you got to rely on Sly to go out there, make an extra point, and save that 2-point conversion attempt for when you really need it. That was too early, and that even made a bigger hole even bigger than what it needed to be, especially, even though, yes, your offense was moving very well, but I think that was a situation as a fan. As soon as I saw him go for 2, I said, "Oh, it's too early. You're making a mistake," and then you miss it, and now you're really screwed at this point. That one attempt is one of the big differences between them winning this game and losing this game. Had they wait and they let Sly go out there, kick the extra point, they would have been down
7.
They'd have been down 7. Yeah, they'd have been down 7.
But so here's the other thing with that is it screwed up his head. And so later he missed the extra point because now he's like, oh, they don't believe in me. They didn't go to me the last time. And like, it's all a rhythm thing, right? There's momentum. Right. So not going to the kicker in an obvious kicking situation makes them have self-doubt. Maybe they didn't go to me the last time because they thought I'd missed this. That even that little bit of a doubt right before he goes into that kick, the extra point that you need him to make then, and now you're down 2 extra points.
Yeah,
I-
it was not a good decision.
Yeah. So let's take a look ahead. I think we've kind of broken down, most of what we need to do about this game. I appreciate Eric for chiming in as well. He also, analytics only exist to cover coaches' asses. And,
I love it.
yeah, and Wentz is not perfect, but it's definitely not his fault. I agree, and I don't think anyone should expect perfection 2 times in. And a champ froze for a second. He's gonna be right back. Germs are fun as a first time chatter. I always love Twitch names. Welcome in the chat. And we'll bring champ in a second, but I'll get Dujunea's thoughts while he reboots in. I'm gonna pull up our thing just to make sure I can see when he needs to jump back in. But Dujunnea, let's take a look at these Eagles team, who's playing pretty well right now. They're up 21-7 with just on the 2-minute warning right before halftime. They've been playing pretty well. This game, I believe, is in Washington. A lot of us were pretty excited about the this team just in general. I think the only people that had them 1-1 was actually Arun. Everyone else either had us winning the first 2 or losing the first 2 games. So we're right in the middle of where we kind of thought we would be.
Right.
But a lot of us had us losing this next one, including both you and many others. I had us winning these first 3, so clearly I'm already wrong. But I don't know. I think this could be a get right game. I mean, Philly's gonna have to putting this tough game on a Monday Night Football. Sometimes there's an advantage to having a more regular, Sunday to Sunday, and the Monday night to have to then travel. And there's a lot of things that are gonna have to happen for Philadelphia. Philadelphia was thought to be at the beginning of the season the number 1 team in this division by a lot of pundits, and they've been kind of up and down through what we've seen so far. They're definitely not as good as people thought, but they're also not, they did beat the Lions, but it wasn't like by a wide margin. Although now I'm starting to think the Lions were better than a lot of people gave them credit for. They are doing pretty well against the Vikings right now. What are your thoughts about the Eagles coming to town?
They present some of the same things that we've been discussing over the past 2 weeks. Defense has to be extremely sound in the way that they handle the run, because now you're dealing with a dual threat. You have a quarterback and you have they have a running back by committee. And you're going to have to be extremely sound in the way that you play ball up front, and that defensive front 5, because we don't really have a middle linebacker in that particular scheme. It's going to be very important for them to tackle well. They've been getting gashed the first 2 games as far as the running game, and Detroit was smart enough to stick with it, unlike Jacksonville. I think you expect to see the same thing. It's all on tape. So, and I would be worried about the deep ball as well. They've got weapons, and if Washington cannot tighten up the secondary, we're going to see more of the same. But I don't think Philly's defense is that good. I mean, they're playing Kirk on a Monday night, so I don't really, it is what it is on a Monday night. He doesn't really do very well in that. And they don't have nearly as many weapons as Washington does along that wide receiver core. I mean, it's Jefferson and a couple of guys, but they haven't really shown themselves yet. So I'm really looking at the fact that this defense has to shore it up. The offense did nothing in the first half and still was able to put up 27 points. So they have the ability to be able to beat the Eagles, but you can't let them boat race you early. They have to come out and be more prepared on offense in the first half. And if they can do that, it's going to be a game. It's going to be a game for sure. And I really don't believe in Philly's defense. I don't think it's that great. And what they're showing on Monday night against Kirk, it's Kirk. Okay, like what we saw last week, they got hammered by Detroit as well. So, and I think Washington can present some of the same problems that Detroit did in the beginning in week 1. So it's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be you're going to be clinging to your seat on this one, unfortunately, if the defense doesn't change their ways.
Yeah, so we got a scoring update. Buffalo is just talking about a boat race. They're up 34-7 now. 5:16 left in the third quarter. They could put up 50 tonight at this rate. Poor Tennessee. I've been talking. The Bills are the real deal. I think they've been knocking on this door for a couple of seasons now, and who knows? I would not be surprised if they are the AFC championship. The champion at the end of this whole thing. They're my odds-on early-on favorites, I think, to win the AFC at this point. They just seem to be able to take care of business. They did very well in their opener, against the defending, champion. And so that bodes well for them. I don't think they're going to win every game this year, but at the same time, I think they could do a lot of damage. And so that's great. Oh, we just got a raid on Twitch. Thank you, CT Music. Appreciate the raid. That's awesome. CT, I was actually lurking in your stream earlier, so I appreciate the raid. It looked like you were having a good time in your new stream room, and I appreciate that a lot. And Champ, I see that Champ is back. How's the laptop doing? Are you gonna you can let us know in Twitch chat if you want to join us again, either on that or on your phone for the end of the segment, or Dejanae and I can just rock and roll and finish up this segment. But either way, we're fine. And CT, he says it's loading up right now. Perfect. CT asks, how are we doing? We're doing great. It's been a fun stream so far. I mean, it's always tough to talk a little bit about a loss, but I think that it's been a good discussion about how we can improve as a team. We're not the media doom and gloom. We're also not sucking up to the Washington football team and saying that they did incredible with no errors last week. They definitely should own up some of these mistakes, and I think that there is clear ways to fix it. And it's going to be a tough matchup against the Eagles. And next week on Monday Night Football, they're promoting it right now. Cowboys at Giants. It's going to be a really interesting matchup.
Giants are going to win.
You think so? Yeah.
Yes. I think the Giants are a little bit better than they showed. They are somewhere in between this week and last week. And I don't think what we saw from the Cowboys against I don't think that's real. And here's why. We think that the Cincinnati Bengals are better than they are. I really do. And I have to admit that I'm one of them too. With all the changes they made, it just doesn't seem to be gelling. I don't think they're as good as they appear or we think they are. And they have some work to do.
For sure. It was a tough pick'em week. I know we're all in the same pick'em league together, but
got murdered.
I did a whole entire show on it for Thursday for an hour, and I was like, let's pick them and see how we do. Which is obviously the best way to jinx yourself, for sure. I used to do a third hour of Sports on the Hill podcast in the first couple of seasons where I believe you were even in some of them, where I just brought in like 8 people and we just had a free for all. And we used to have a good old time picking games, different guests, different weeks. It's Sith for some of them. We've got all sorts of different people coming through that over the years. I miss doing that segment. My family was out of town, so I thought, hey, if there's ever a week to do the segment, let's, on a Thursday on a special to celebrate 400 followers, let's do it. And we had a great time picking. We just didn't do very well in our results of what we did. Just a lot of surprises. I mean, the Ravens started off so well in that game, and I didn't have Tua coming away with 6 touchdowns. I don't know how many people had that.
But I think Lamar Jackson for those 62 points, the 62 fantasy points. Thank you.
Oh, man. 43-yard interception return for a touchdown. They've already put up 40, Dujanae. My 50 number is looking
real good right now, buddy.
Now they're at 41 now, 41-7 with 3:39 left. in the third quarter. So 9 points to 50. We can have 50 watch on our show. Cause I just think that's a fun number to hit. It's not easy, and
not easy at all.
Yeah, they might hit it. A lot of over and unders are put at 50, no less one team going for 50.
Exactly.
So, but anyway, so we'll keep an eye on that a little bit. But yeah, I mean, the Cincinnati game, I was surprised that Dallas won that one. I didn't have Cincinnati's having a bit of a hangover after the Super Bowl loss last year, which happens to teams for sure. But I was surprised by that. There was just a lot of like late comebacks that I thought were interesting. But the NFL is always exciting. Lots of good games, up and down, every week. But let's get your final thoughts on that Eagles game coming up, and then I'll let you give a little bit of a shout out for your podcast as well. We still have I think Champ's still coming back to at least say goodbye, but if not, we'll give him shout out after yours as well. But let people know what's happening on your shows or whatever you are writing for this week as well, and let our listeners know.
Well, I'll tell you what, we looked at these stats, and I'll give you some stats going away. They allowed 8 yards per carry against the Lions. It was 6.8 the week before. It's not looking good if you're having a team like the Eagles who has running backs and a running quarterback. Gonna have to tighten that up. That average ain't gonna look very good. Probably worse than the league at this point coming into this game. So that stuff's got to be shored up. As I stand by the loss, I think it's going to be a loss. Likely it'll be a close one. It's just one of those things. Early season divisional game against a team that I think it's pretty good. I'm not sure if I'm ready to. I still say that they're number one right now in the division, and that's not by much. But I don't see them winning this game.
How do you stack up the division right now over the top four if you're taking a look at it?
Oh man, I honestly right now, if you're going to go, I'd go Philly. I would go Washington over Dallas, but it's hard because Dallas's defense is really good. I don't think what they put up offensively last week is really their true identity. I think I give Kellen Moore some credit. He made some adjustments from last week. Why he couldn't do that with a starting quarterback in week one, I have no idea, but it's a dumpster fire and both of them are trash. So whatever. But I guess I'd have to go with Dallas at number 2. Washington's 3 and the Giants are still 4 for me. I can't trust Daniel Jones. Sorry.
But you think number 4 is going to beat number 2 next week?
Definitely, because I think I really do believe that what we saw is an anomaly. I don't trust the Bengals. I think the Giants are a lot more scrappy and have a little bit more fight. They just have a not so good quarterback in Daniel Jones, but they do have an angry Saquon Barkley. And I think that makes the difference because I don't see Dallas being able to move the ball that well in this game coming up. So, and I believe they go to New York.
Yes, I believe it is.
So I that's the only reason why. If it was in Dallas, I'd probably give it to them, but I think it's going to be a close one, and I think the Giants will edge them out.
I see that Champ is back, so I'm going to get his thoughts on this game. And then I also have a bunch of comments on the Facebook feed that I'll get to as well. But Champ, what are your thoughts on playing Philly this upcoming week?
Right. So that was the first time since I've gotten this laptop that it did all of that. So that's a shock. So I'm going to have to look into that. But this Eagles game, I picked this one as a loss. And this is even before seeing what the Eagles have done these first 2 games. Like Jalen Hurts is like something different when it comes to a running quarterback. And I was listening to what DJ was saying about, Philly going up against our wide receiving core and how we have a different dynamic with more weapons than what they had to deal with in game 1. So I think that offensively, they just need to go, and as mentioned before, they need to do a lot more short drops, quick passes, get the running game going, so that way you can set up the play action pass and really keep their defense off balance. But the key is that 4-2-5 defense, that makeshift nickel defense has to adjust to having to deal with a mobile quarterback. No doubt about it. Like, it's just bottom line common sense. Those 4 guys up front have to get home and get to Hurts early and often. Make him have to think about what can happen if he holds onto the ball longer than he needs to. And if they can't get home, then he's going to have time to be able to either look through his progressions or just take off and run. And your linebackers are going back in coverage. They're going to probably give up 5 to 7 yards to the quarterback each time. And that's the yards you don't want to give up, because you don't want to find yourself in second and short off the break, because then it's going to be harder to try to get off the field if you got him in second and short instead of second and long or second and medium. So bottom line is, it's all on the defense. They have to step up. This performance they had this week has to be erased, short memory, adjust, and put in a plan that has to make Jalen Hurts sweat. Because if Jalen Hurts can sit back there and make throws or get out of the pocket or get out and run, they're going to be in trouble. I still feel like they're going to lose. I did pick them to lose this game. I did. But as a fan, I'm going to be rooting for them to win. But I did pick them to lose this one because I think Philly is a much better team this year than they were last year. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking at. But the defense got to step up, and they got to make Jalen Hurts sweat harder than a try-hard war zone, like sweat, because otherwise he's going to have a field day.
Yeah. So the only people that picked us for a win in this game was myself, CP3, and Leslie. So the 3 biggest homers of the whole entire thing. So that should just tell you everyone else had it as well. So I mean,
which is funny because I'm a homer too, but I picked them to lose.
Yeah, there are definitely other homers in this list, but I would say the biggest, Leslie and I used to have season tickets together, and CP3 had us going 11-6 on this season. So, that should tell you, and Leslie had 10-7. So, both of them had pretty high, although Dejanae, I have to give you credit. You picked us to get 10 wins this year, which, do you still think even if we lose this game to Philly that we could get to 10?
Yeah, because I think there's going to be a game that I picked as a loss that they're going to be able to win. And some of them, especially the division ones, it was really hard to make that decision because it could go either way. And I just looked at it as some of the early season growing pains, and they would get it together late in the season and make a run. But I think they're going to steal some of those that I have as losses. They'll steal a few of those, but I think they can win 10 games. I really do, especially with this offense. If the defense can just be half of what they were, and make some plays consistently. I mean, 3 of 4 of 13 on third down is not bad. Just eliminating the explosive plays would help. It's the explosive plays that are killing them right now. And they're allowing teams to just go first down, second down, and never hardly reach third down. I do think they can get 10, though. I really do believe that, especially what we've seen from this offense.
For sure. All right. Well, I just want to be mindful of everybody's time. I'm going to get Andy to join us in just a few moments. I'm going to let Dujunnea give his shout outs for his stuff real fast. And then I'll let Champ do the same. I'll give a little quick update on how the Nats week went. I assume neither of you guys watch much national, so I'm not going to keep.
No, I can't even watch them.
Yeah.
That team is a dumpster fire.
I can't even watch them.
It's going to be a very quick segment, maybe 2 minutes. So, I do want to at least go through the scores, but that's about it. Anyway, but Dejanae, let people know where they can find you. I'm going to do your command in chat for Twitch, but let everyone know.
You can always find me at sportsjourney.com. Have several articles up for the Commanders, trying to be a little bit more consistent on that. You can also find me at The Breakdown, which is right back here. Myself and the boss, Karita Parks. We talk everything Commanders. That's what we're doing this year. We're going to stay in the NFC East and cover some big stories. but we're going to try to centralize this thing. Our schedules are tight, and we're going to try to keep and bring you some more Commanders talk as well as other Washington, D.C. sports. You can also follow me at NotBland21. And I love talking shop with you guys, whether it's, Washington or what, just simple NFL stuff. I love it. And appreciate you guys for having me on. Thank you.
One thing before you leave, I wanted to wear this today. I usually wear merch, but we got beat so badly last week. And I just wanted to come back and rep the team. And I was just so happy that they were able to come back and beat Miami. I don't know if you got to watch any of that game. It was a really good game.
I did.
What were your thoughts on the rebound for Texas A&M?
It's what I expect. I ain't gonna lie. After he did what he did with Florida State, I really hope that he loses every game until he retires. With that said, though, it's not anything I don't expect from Jimbo. He's a great offensive mind, a great coach when he's into it. And I expected them to beat Miami. Miami has some players and some things, but they don't have what other teams have. So, I was happy to see Texas A&M beat up on Miami. I'm not, the U ain't what it used to be.
It's funny you mentioned college, because a certain head coach way back when said, you play to win the game. And he just got fired 3 games into this season. Talk about Herb Edwards. Arizona said, bye-bye, you're out, go away, bye. I thought that was funny.
It's wild. And I'm like, well, who are they thinking about going to get? Sometimes I feel like, especially with Herm, there are times where the game just passes you by. And it's not that he's not a good coach. It's just that he's an older coach, and you have to relate to today's athlete. I think that's something that Deion does very well, given his age. You see, Nick Saban being able to relate to, still have that mentality of what he expects in the standard, but he also is willing to bend a little bit and move with the times. And I think that's probably one thing that hurts Herm, is that it ain't all about X's and O's all the time. And sometimes you have to be able to relate to your athlete. And, otherwise the voice gets a little stale in the room, especially if you're not winning more games than you're losing. So, it's not a surprise. I will say that.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Dejanae, for your time. As always, I look forward
to
all season long being able to break some of these games down, and hopefully more wins than losses. But I'm sure we'll have a bunch of both throughout the season.
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. We'll have you on next week, and definitely everyone check out Dejanae. Links are in the chat on Twitch, but you can also go SportsOTHP.com and click our podcast partners, and you can click the button on there, and you can check out all of our different podcast partners, whether it be Champ or the Power Play Point podcast. So you got the breakdown upon further review with Brian Brennan. Also, if you click on Team Sports OTHP, it's got all of the social links there, so you can definitely check out all of Dejanae's different links to all the breakdown, the sports media, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Instagram. We also have all of Champ's links from the No Spots podcast, twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. Also, it's Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and his show's Twitter also are all on the Team Sports OTHP link. But Champ, let people know what's happening on the No Spots podcast this week.
Well, first off, I'm watching Raw right now, and they're in San Jose, and George Kittle made an appearance on camera. He's at the game, so he's having a good couple of days after San Fran got the win, despite losing Trey Lance to a season-ending injury. But True No Spots this week, we're doing something very, very interesting. After we talk news and notes and the New Japan recap, Myself and Sith are going to sit down, break down, and grade the big 5 pay-per-views from WWE's worst fiscal year ever of 1995. That's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, King of the Ring, SummerSlam, and Survivor Series. I've already watched one of them, and I'm already regretting this decision. But we're in it to win it. So we'll be talking about that on Saturday. So you can check us out at twitch.tv/True No Spots Pod. Audio goes up the very next day on all our audio platforms, and you can check out the podcast partners button on SportsOTHP.com. It should be a very interesting discussion this Saturday. So join us.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. As always, I'm going to just cut out the audio for the end of the Facebook stream and our podcast, and then we'll continue on live on Twitch. People who don't know, I also do emoji design. For those who don't know Twitch lingo, it's called emotes on there, but it's like an emoji. It's like a graphic that you see, but it's custom to a channel. And so we'll do an emote design. I think we're making some animated ones, maybe some static ones, maybe some other designs with our friend Andy, Primordial Sound. So find out more on twitch.tv/RobbieG_SportsOTHP. And also the link is in the description of the Facebook. And so we'll be continuing to chat over there. But thank you everyone for tuning in. Oh, I was going to go over the scores real fast.
Oh, hi, Andy, by the way.
Yes. Sorry, real quickly, the scores in the Nationals, for anybody that's still interested in baseball, they had a rough week, losing in the Battle of the Beltway. The 2 games they played against Baltimore, both were in Washington. They lost the first one 3-4. The second one they lost 2-6. So not putting up a whole lot of runs. Baltimore is in that wild card hunt, and then they played Miami. All 3 of those games were also in Washington. They won the first 2, 5-4 and 5-3, but lost the third one. They only put up 1 run. They allowed 3. They're right now in a live game at Atlanta. It is currently in the top of the 9th inning. Washington is down 5-2 right now. So that looks like it's going to be a loss. They're going to play at Atlanta tomorrow at 7:20, on Wednesday at 12:20, on Friday they're at Miami at 6:40, Saturday at Miami at 6:10, and Sunday it's a matinee 1:40 game at Miami. And then next week, Monday versus Atlanta again. It's a 7:05 start. This time it will be at home in Washington. So that we will talk about that game maybe a little bit next week as well. So that's your quick Nats update. But thank you everyone for tuning in to episode 282 of Sports on the Hill podcast. Again, join us on Twitch if they want to continue on for art streams. That'll be the end of our Facebook live stream. But thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate everyone's comments and stuff. I hopefully they will share it around if they enjoyed it tonight. We'll talk to you guys next week for 283, where we'll be recapping the Eagles game and then previewing the next week's game as well. So I hope you guys all have a great night, and thank you everyone for tuning in on Facebook, and we'll continue on Twitch in just a moment.